What's up everyone, this is Ollie aka Soul Warrior, and today we are looking at another adventure. This time we are featuring Tokon. Now Tokon is a unit that is best when it gets hit, because afterwards it's shelling up, hiding in its shell. It can get hit a couple of times, but it's got like a lot of shield, doesn't take any more damage, and then eventually you can strike back. That's the whole idea about Tokon. And the problem with adventures is that, especially the early levels, they always have this feature that says do not take any damage. Doesn't matter if you heal it back afterwards, once you took damage you lost like one bonus condition. And I found that to be extremely frustrating, and we're going to go back to that in just a little bit. But let's first head into the first encounter. This is common encounter number 1, where you're not allowed to take any damage, as we just mentioned, and you can only deploy polearm heroes. Now that already gives you like a strong hint, because there's only so many polearm heroes in this game. It kind of suggests that you definitely want to play Naevis, because there's 3 enemies lined up, so that's the active of Naevis, like an invitation basically. Unfortunately only 2 of them are going down. And then on top of that, Taro also happens to have polearm, and Taro is a unit that can actually prevent taking any damage, as we can see here. So now we're in a really good spot, and we just have to time our attacks correctly, think about where do we attack next. And what's actually interesting about this whole thing is that polearm is playing a role, because no matter where we place Naevis now, as long as she's like 2 fields away from that palace guard, the palace guard cannot connect with our units, because the palace guard cannot get past. Basically our guys are saying you shall not pass, and that's basically all polearm's job. And this is how you solve the first level. It took me, I don't know, 3 or 4, even 5 attempts until I got the correct positioning, making sure that the palace guard doesn't do any damage to some other unit, but in the end I got there. That takes us to common encounter number 2, and I already felt broken at that point, because normally I always try to make a point out of not playing legendary units like a Dorga in these adventures, so it's easier for everyone to have access to those. But I already felt like, yeah, I can't be bothered, this seems way too hard. I thought at first there might be a strategy that involves Penda, where you can heal your own blue units, but that's of course not true, because we cannot take any damage in the first place. So that's why I basically cheesed this level with Dorga, and Tokon quite honestly is just standing there not doing much, which is gonna be a bit of a theme for most of this adventure. We've seen this before with other units. It's kind of worse in this case, at least in some of these encounters. This is already where we're doing a pivot, because I couldn't be bothered with the rest of this adventure once we're going to the uncommon levels. I'm gonna be talking about that some more, which means we're switching over to Raizzan's strategy for solving this adventure. Raizzan, in case you guys don't know, one of the best players in this game, plays for Dragonfall, one of the best guilds in this game, currently going up against the first Eternal Nexus guild from my network. They are fighting for first place. It's like a back and forth between those 2 guilds. It's quite interesting to see, at least if you're into guild raid. He did this encounter in fact without Dorga, so much more power to him than there should be power to me. He's using Aradel in a very creative way, because he wants Aradel to create eyes in such a way that the enemies cannot just get close enough, move in and deal with our units. That's the underlying idea here, and I think this is a really strong play. You can see those 2 ice bars here basically, and they are preventing those enemies from moving here and then attacking our units, as long as we got like another unit close by. In this case we got at least 3 frogs, and they're gonna get the job done. So then Raizzan is thinking about, okay, where do we move our units? He's creating some more eyes, and now these guys can only go here or here. They could go in the middle and then there, but there's Taro. And for the most part they don't like to attack Taro because it's kind of strong. And here you can see that they're attacking the frogs, but only the frogs. And now we clustered all of our units in the bottom half of the map, and we can then move out like somewhat carefully. You have to be very careful with units in the desert. There's these guys that are riding on horses. They can actually shoot back when you hit them, so you need to be very, very careful. Here Raizzan is playing full defense. He's just like retreating some more. Even Penda does not attack, because he's just waiting for these frogs to evolve properly, and that's what happens. Here we see the frog warriors, and now we're in a really, really good position. Like, the frogs basically did the entire work for us. Almost feel bad about that, but in the end that's how you get there, with a lightning victory, not taking any damage. And now this encounter, this time we're going to be turning it around. We're going to be watching first through Raizzan's solution, because he didn't even realize this, but I did, because I tried to copy it later. What you need for this particular strategy is a crit hit, and watch this very closely. When Lionel is moving to the front, there is the crit hit. And I've tried this 3, 4, 5 times without a crit hit. It was extremely depressing. There is a different strategy that I'm going to show you guys in just a second, but you also have to get lucky. And like I said before, I basically lost my motivation for this festival at some point, because I was like, yeah, this is just like too many things need to come together to be able to solve these puzzles. Don't get me wrong, I love puzzle solving, but it just seemed like it was at a very, very high level for this particular adventure. So that was common encounter number 3, the way that Raizzan did it. Let's switch back over to my videos, and this is common encounter number 3, the way that I did it, where you need a little bit less luck, but still some luck. I just did this a little bit like the other way around. We can see here we can only deploy warriors. If you see you can only deploy warriors, you already know that you have to play Silverroot, because Kyle loves Silverroot. Kyle is the guy that is designing these adventures. So we're first going in with Crow, something that you normally never do, but now the guy on the top left has taken some damage. We no longer need a crit hit, and we can actually get there. And if somebody's out there and says, well, you don't need a crit hit, I did it without one. I tried 7 times without one. That's why I was running out of tickets, and I was already like super annoyed with this entire adventure. Alright, so that's basically the first turn, and now the rest is more or less the same as what we saw with Raizzan. I'm just going with the crows again, I believe. Oh no, actually I'm going for the provoking snap, the active of Tokon, because it's kind of powerful. Just take out the unit straight away, and then the crows are doing the rest. So this is the strategy that requires a little bit less luck, but still some luck. And we are going to the uncommon encounters. And uncommon encounter number 1 requires you to play 3 heroes. They all need to be blue. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And they need to be warriors. There's 4 units in the game that suffers these conditions, and that of course is Corrin, as we can see here, Bullmon, Taro, I mean that makes sense, and then Sefa the Snowman. However, Sefa is not known to take out a lot of enemies at the same time, so you kinda require, or you feel at least like Bullmon might be the better option. I'm not sold on this, but Raizzan said he tried this level 17 times. I'm not sure if he was exaggerating. I'm normally the guy that is exaggerating left and right. And he said I was broken after this level, and I took his word for it and didn't feel like playing anymore. Or at least not trying to get perfect scores anymore. So he did it like this. He got the perfect line of ice, and then he basically put himself in such a good position that he could get the job done. Now I believe there is an alternative strategy where you don't have to require that much luck, and that is placing Tokon here on the healing pad, getting rid of the first unit. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. And then using Corrin here and using the active of Corrin in this general direction. I mean, obviously you cannot steer the active of Corrin, otherwise this would actually be a good effect, which it is not. And then you've got a polearm unit at the front standing on a healing pad, and nobody can get past Tokon. I keep saying Taro. Tokon. And then you can like hide Bullmon in the corner and do some like strikes with a distance. That could work, but I think you still need to get ridiculously lucky with Corrin's effect. If somebody finds out a way how to steer Corrin's effect, let me know. I guess the ice cannot traverse like upwards, so if you do it here and it goes up straight ahead, it kind of needs to go left eventually, but I don't think there's like a guarantee or anything of the sort. So this is the encounter that broke Raizzan and me as a proxy, so to speak. So okay, that's basically that. In uncommon encounter number 2, we are not allowed to play any ranged heroes. So the problem is you cannot walk in the middle of all of these heroes because polearm again. So instead we're just sending Nimble to the front, and we use his active to take almost out these 3 guys. Then after that we can use Tokon. I don't agree with that play, to be honest, because I would have used Runner Clue here. Seems to me like that would have made a bit of more sense, to be honest, but who knows, let's see. So Yasmin is taking some damage, so we need to now get Yasmin on the healing spot. Now we still have Runner Clue and Darkness on the board, so that's the good news. And we can also dish out easily, because this guy doesn't strike back if he immediately gets one shot, so to speak. So the only problem is now we cannot be like super aggressive, because if we are, there's no enemy standing and the shades are going to take care of all of them. So we might want to take one out, we might want to take none out, and that's I think what Raizzan does. I'm not sure, maybe he goes in with Nimrod here, thinking about this for a little bit. It would not make sense to refresh Nimrul here and then go in again because, like I said, you don't want to do any more damage. Alright, because you need to heal first. Here's the heal, and now it doesn't matter what's happening. You can take out these guys, it's not a problem. He's actually activating Runner Clue for a second time going in, and that gives him the perfect score, the lightning victory just in time in this particular encounter. And next up is uncommon encounter number 3. I could switch to my play, but quite honestly, I think this is like roughly the same thing that I did. You just go with the darkness team. You're not allowed to play any hulking units, not much of a problem. None of these guys are hulking. You just create some darkness on the left side, you just create some darkness on the right side. I even played Umanu, I didn't play Accio, but like either thing is fine. Accio, I guess, has the advantage that he can actually strike this guy, but he takes some strike back damage. And that could actually be a problem because now you first have to heal Accio. But these enemies are quite good. The desert guys are quite good at taking out lots and lots of shades without problem because their pull attack gets the shades out of darkness. And then if you get the shades out of darkness, obviously they cannot strike back. So Accio heals himself with his passive, then uses his active, and that's all she wrote. And that's how we end up with the lightning victory in this particular encounter. That takes us to rare encounter number 1, where we are required to play Reefkin heroes. Now you see a lot of water on that map, so that already screams Timtim. There's a couple of these guys at the bottom that can shoot you from a distance, so you want to take them out, and Timtim in fact is strong enough to just like make short use of them, take them out immediately. Then you can walk over water with gigs. Make sure that you get a couple of frogs. And these palace guards are a lot of things, but they are not known for being like super mobile. So now you're in a really good spot. There's an army of frogs between you and the enemy. You can attack from a distance. And we're asking ourselves, what is Tokon doing? Like, why are we even playing Tokon? This is just, again, not a greatest showcase. I think there's a different approach to this map where you do place Tokon on the healing spot and then the palace guards cannot get past and he can heal every turn, and yeah, that's fun, but it's just like 400 times more efficient. Just take these guys out from a distance. And yeah, so that's what we're doing here. We're just focusing all of our fire on one enemy. Gix can come back basically and hit him. At least that's an option. And then after that, I would have actually hit him with Tokon. I think that's what okay, crit hit. Yeah, that's how you can do it too. And then the Frog Warriors are playing cleanup, and that gets us there. So that's how you get this level done. Quite interesting approach. In rare encounter number 2, we cannot close in on the enemy very quickly because we're not allowed to play any horses. But we can still cheat a little bit because we can just walk over water with Tokon. So that's how we basically make sure that the enemies cannot connect with us, because suddenly we're on that Strudel, as we call it in German, that special whirlwind thing that takes you through the desert. And after that we're like getting out of the way with Nixie. I would have almost said Gixie, but no, she cannot shoot I don't know, like frog enemy landmines. She can just shoot landmines. And then we're hiding in the corner at the bottom. Like we could move in with Tokon, but it doesn't look like the strongest play unless we are able to get Tokon next to the tree. And there's an option here that Raizzan is setting this up in a way that he actually gets pushed to the tree. He doesn't, okay. But still, very good move. He's now close to the enemy. He can bring Snazbang into the mix by going through that Strudel and end up on the other side, and that's exactly not what he does because he uses Nixie instead. And then after Nixie he can now connect Tokon to the tree, and that's what you want. Tokon to the tree is like the motto of this entire run. Interestingly enough, he's not attacking this enemy. I'm not quite sure why. And he's still thinking about what is Snazbang gonna do. Now keep in mind, Snazbang gets stronger and stronger with every passing turn. He's not able to get Tokon next to the tree, he gets thrown around. So now he needs to connect Nixie with Tokon to make sure that he heals. So he's counting spots on the map, I guess, and comes to the conclusion that it makes the most sense to move Tokon all the way to the top. I think it would have made a bit more sense to move him here, to be honest, and then heal, because then you can still hit the enemy with Snazbang. But either way is fine. In the end, we are taking them down, and that's how we end up with the perfect score here. Also, no gold rank 1. In the next encounter, we cannot bring any healers nor mechanics, so we are instead using gigs to place a lot of enemies, to give them a lot of frogs to deal with. Very interesting strategy. Now, interestingly enough, Yasmin is not considered a healer, she can just be used to refresh kicks and throw his empty the net for a second time. That almost seems like cheating, but it gets the job done. That's how we end up with a perfect score in this encounter. This takes us to rare encounter number 4, where we are required to only play warriors. Now, this time we're playing Cinder. Cinder helps us to put like some presence on the board, give the enemy something to shoot at instead of our units, and that always works. This is the fire spitter, in case you didn't know, and Cinder's little cannon is immediately going to town. Then we are again going with Corrin. Wow, Corrin, the MVP in this adventure so far. 2 encounters that seemed absolutely impossible to win. Corrin is just like, yeah, let me take care of this with like my very targeted active effect that is known for its usability and precision. And after that, Raizzan is thinking about, okay, what do we do next here? There's a couple of options. We can obviously refresh Cinder to give another cannon or get another cannon on the board. We can also do something with Tokon here, but truth be told, we don't want to take any damage. And the only target that the enemy has, with the exception of the fire spitter, is Corrin at the moment, which is quite strong because Corrin can actually heal thanks to his elemental trait. Now, we are instead repairing the cannon. The enemies are focusing their fire on Corrin. That's in our interest because, like I said, he can heal. And now we just have to take out every enemy before the round is over and we're good. So this is relatively simple. So we're checking our effects, see how much damage we can do with all of these attacks. Tokon takes one guy out. Then I think this is gonna be Corrin. He's just flying over there, attacks with high ground. That's just fair. And then Raizzan gets the job done, and that gives us the perfect victory with a lightning score in this encounter. That takes us to rare encounter number 5, where we can only play blue units. Now this is a map that I love to see in arena, and again it's Corrin going through that strudel, and taking out a lot of enemies on the other side of the board. Quite interesting. I see at least like 2 other ways to make this level work, like for example going with the gigs in, but instead we are going like all offense. Now our little problem here is that Bullmon took some damage. However, we do have a healer in our midst. You might not know it. His name is Penda. Penda can actually heal your own units. We are first using Tim take out most of the enemies, and then after that, this is now the time to shine for Penda, because its Rain of Ice is not only gonna do some damage to the enemy, on top of that, it's also going to heal our very own Bullmon. Bullmon gets to the high ground, doesn't attack, enemy has only 3 more health. That means it's Tokon time, and Tokon takes out the enemy for the perfect victory. That concludes the rare encounters and takes us to the epic encounter, where we are again only allowed to bring warriors, and it's Corrin time again. What is this festival? Whose festival was it? Corrin's, right? I believe so. Then this time we can actually put Tokon to some use. Mostly we're using his water walk. More than anything else, we're using his water walk as far as I can tell. Now the big question is, are we going for Silverroot's active, or are we just doing a regular attack with Silverroot? It seems like it makes a lot more sense to attack with Silverroot here, but we cannot quite get out of the range of the enemy at the bottom of the palace guard. I keep forgetting, has he 2 movement or 3 movement? 3 movement. But he throws Corrin into the ice. Oh my god, this is the absolute MVP move by Corrin. He ends up in ice, heals himself. We can do 2 attacks on this enemy, and then after that, this is a walk in the park, because obviously we can see Silverroot can do a crit hit, yeah, but you can also just use the active. It's fine. I think this is fine. There's no question here. This enemy is gonna go down. Wow, what a boss move from Corrin, just like letting himself thrown in the ice. Epic encounter number 2, we are not allowed to play any ranged units, and this time even Raizzan is giving up, and he says, yeah, I think it's Dogger time. I've had enough with this adventure. So he's going in with Dogger, gives us only 1 frog, so Dogger doesn't look like it's like the strongest unit here, the strongest play. And we also see that Dogger is taking quite a bit of damage here. However, we do have a Raizzan, so Raizzan can heal Dogger. That's what happens here. And this time around, Dogger gets between 2 enemies for a gigantic Dogger summon. The strike back is not important here whatsoever. They can strike back, but we don't mind. And then we can move in. And now there's a lot of summons on the board, and Accio is also there. So that's like the Arena 101. How do you win a game in Arena? You just go with summons and then Accio, and that gives you the win. In the last epic encounter, we're neither allowed to bring any mounted units, nor are we allowed to bring any flying units. Now that gives us still a lot of options to choose from. Question number 1 is, where do we let the Dark Dragon fly to bring some darkness on this map? There's also Hana, at least at like this is the latest point where everybody knows, okay, this is actually not me playing this time, this is 100% Raizzan playing. Obviously the Dark Dragon is super powerful against these enemies. Thanks to this Giggs bomb, the Empty the Net, we can guarantee that these shades are going downwards. The Dark Dragon is flying downwards because it always tries to hit as many units as possible. Then we got Hana in the back, the third best healer in this game, out of 3 healers in this game. Just there to heal up our units in case there's something going wrong. And we are now in a very controlled position. There's a runner clue, there's a Tokon that is also doing like significant damage. And then on top of that we can still bring in more shades to just make sure that the enemy cannot do much. Now our biggest problem at this particular point in time is that we do not want any unit to take damage. So I think that's why Raizzan didn't immediately engage. He was thinking maybe they take out all our units, and that means we can still first heal and then deal damage and take them out. Not quite sure what he was thinking here, but that's definitely an option. And all of that takes us to the legendary encounter. This is the first attempt for Raizzan. He's only allowed to play blue units, but it doesn't look like that's going to be much of a problem. And we're only allowed to bring 3 units. And this again screams Stalker to me. Giggs also a very strong unit. So we're at least playing even a Rivengard squad. We could be even more restrictive, but for those of us who weren't quite lucky enough to call a Dogger their own, this is probably a bit easier. Or are we again playing Corrin just to rub it in? I don't know, this looks way too much like an encounter that is made for Dogger, because you can get between 2 enemies here, and then you can go with the big Dogger summon. You're gonna have frogs everywhere across the board, and then if the enemy handles most of these frogs, you can use Giggs and just refresh on frogs. It just seems too good to be true. Now I'm not saying this is the only strategy here, but this definitely looks like a really good strategy in this encounter. Here are the frogs, and you can also see that the frogs are strong enough to almost get rid of Seat here. Not quite. But yeah, pretty good opening. We got 3 frogs on the board. There's 4 more eggs on the board. Giggs can get rid of this summon. Tokon can get rid of this summon. Giggs cannot. Interesting. Actually, there's 2 snakes on the board. I should pay a bit more attention. Okay, and now the question is, how do we follow this up? Now, Giggs' Empty the Net doesn't seem like the best option. Tokon is going in, okay. And then Giggs is going for Empty the Net. Wow, what a boss move. We're taking out the summon of our own, but at the same time we're also getting rid of Seat. And that basically wipes the board. I mean, look at this. This is like a one-sided match if I've ever seen one. And so it's very easy for Raizzan to take this guy out. And in the end, gets the lightning victory already on his 2nd turn if I'm counting correctly. And this means that Raizzan gets the last chest with some gold, with another essence, but that's basically it. So it's not like you're missing out on tons of good stuff. It's not like there's an orb in there or an epic badge or something like that. But you can of course get one if you purchase the adventure bundle, which allows you to have a couple more tries to get Corrin's attack in the right position. Alright, that's really it for this particular adventure. I would say this is one of the more challenging ones. It wasn't the strongest showcase for Tokon. Personally, I'm not a level designer by any stretch of the imagination, but I would have absolutely loved a level where there's like a long tunnel basically, and there's 3 fields where enemies can break through that we've seen in Onslaught a couple of times. Then a healing pad in the middle, but not necessarily. And you just place Tokon there. He can make sure that nobody gets past him because of polearm. He's gonna tank all the damage, and you can just heal him with Nixie or another unit, I don't know, something like that. And he really showcases what he can do, because he can turtle up like crazy, take a lot of abuse, a lot of damage, and just like stand there like a rock, organizing your defenses. That's basically what this unit can do, more or better than any other unit in the game. We didn't quite see that, but we did see a lot of water walking, the amphibious trait, and of course we also saw that he's blue because you often had to play him with other blue units. At the end of the day, there were a couple of really cool, exciting puzzles in this adventure. I didn't even play them myself, but I'm eventually gonna get there. Thanks so much to Raizzan, who allowed us to use his footage for this video. I don't know how many gems I would have needed to go through this adventure with perfect scores across the board. And actually, I'm pretty certain that I would have ended up with a few more gray hairs. So I'm quite happy that we could do it this way. One more time, let's give it up for Raizzan. Thank you so much for providing us with this footage. Guys, do me a favor, check out the Discord of Dragonfall, Raizzan Skill. They are always looking for new talents, so they can actually kick our butt. If you happen to have some pity with us, join Eternal Nexus. That's our Discord. There's also a link in the description below. And we're of course gonna see each other on the official Discord of Rivengard. Take care guys, and bye bye.